How's it going, everybody? It's Pilot Flame, and we're back. It's kind of weird. I haven't done a stream in a while, because we had a World Cup kind of smacked in the middle of the season. But season's greetings, happy holidays, soon to be a happy new year, and hopefully you're enjoying the festivities, and the ones that are soon to come in the next coming days. So we're doing the stream today because I'm going to be busy over, obviously, Christmas and Boxing Day. So I wanted to do the stream beforehand to kind of show my thoughts on what team I'm looking at. Because we all have the unlimited, as it were. We all can wildcard our teams and start afresh. That's why the title of the stream is FPL Take 2. Because it seems like it's kind of like a brand new season. You have a fresh start, in a sense. And, yeah, looking forward to it. We'll be doing our predictions for this game week as per usual. I didn't do predictions for game week 16, or at least I couldn't find them. So I guess we're going to skip over on those. But, yeah, and we'll take any questions that you have in the chat. Also, make sure that if you have any FPL-related questions, all the way up until, or at least I'll try to, look at as many as I can, obviously sooner rather than later. But any questions, make sure to leave them on this video in the comments section when it gets posted over on YouTube after the stream. So make sure to do that. Or you can post your teams and at me on Twitter. I usually will be looking at those as well. So, without further ado, it's been a while. Let's get into it. So, this is how the team did from a very, very long time ago. We're going to skip over it quite quickly. Somehow I got a green arrow. I don't know how, but I did. I went up 30k places. We're just still floating around with the top million. We had Raya in goal. Cancelo, Trippier, Gahey, who got him. He was very disappointing for us for the most part. Foden got us 9 points. Saka, Martinelli, Zaha with a fantastic 0. Haaland with just the 2 points. Jesus with just the 2 points and is now injured. Darwin Nunez got us 13. He was one of our transfers in. We made 2. I believe we brought in Darwin Nunez and somebody. I can't remember exactly who it was. But I know we definitely brought in Darwin Nunez. And had we not done that, we would have been in trouble. So we did well on that front to kind of stay afloat, and that's what we kind of mainly did. But yeah, that's well in the past. We probably forgot about that. Messi's won the World Cup since then, so you know it's a crazy timeline. This is how the fixtures went. We'll just run through them a little bit. Man City getting disappointed versus Brentford. Bournemouth smashing Everton. Liverpool back amongst the goals with a 3-1 win. Forest upsetting Palace in a 1-0 win. Spurs and Leeds in an absolute insane 4-3. Leicester going to the London Stadium and beating West Ham. Newcastle nicking a 1-0 advantage over Chelsea. Arsenal showing up to a very difficult place to play in Molineux and getting the 2-0 win. Aston Villa just scraping by over Brighton, and United managing to get themselves a victory at Craven Cottage. So that's just a couple of the kind of the headlines, as it were. Nothing really too crazy apart from the Spurs Leeds game, which was just back and forth, and then Man City losing to Brentford puts them 5 points adrift of league leaders Arsenal. However, Arsenal do have their striker Gabriel Jesus out for a few months, which could be an issue. They might need to buy in January, but they also have Eddie Nketiah as a backup, who I thought is quite good as well. And we'll take a look at some differential picks when we go to do our predictions. It says KDB versus Salah. It's a big debate. We'll get into it as well. Cancelo versus cheap City defender. Saka and Martinelli versus Foden and Almiron. Well, I might as well run through them right now. Actually, we'll do it after predictions. I'll come back to that. After the predictions, because predictions we'll do pretty quickly. Just have to run through them. Fantasyfootballcommunity.com is where we do our predictions. You can see like where I'm ranking versus a couple of other members in the FPL community. So make sure to check that out, fantasyfootballcommunity.com. I should probably put a link of that in the description. Should remind myself to do that. But here are our predictions for this week. We have Spurs going to Brentford and winning 2-1. As far as we know, Ivan Toney is available for selection, even though he does have the basically charges against him by the FA, which could see him be sidelined for a very long time, potentially. I have Palace beating Fulham 2-0. I think a home victory for the Eagles will be more than satisfactory for them. I think Everton will do the same with the Goodison Park atmosphere. Leicester and Newcastle, I expect to be a bit of goals in that one. But I think Newcastle will come out on top. Leicester just seem to always score, even with or without Maddison. They just kind of do. But Maddison does help them a lot. Brighton, I see getting the away win versus Southampton by 1-0. I think Aston Villa, again, they won't have Emi Martinez, which means it'll be easier to score for Liverpool. And I think that even with the injuries that Liverpool do have, I think this should be more than enough to get past the Villains. Arsenal, I think, will host a very tough to break down West Ham, but I think they'll get the victory, as well as Chelsea with Bournemouth. I just don't see Chelsea scoring very many goals, and it could actually be one of the kind of sleeper games because under Graham Potter, Chelsea haven't been very interesting to watch. Man United, I think, will comfortably beat Forest. I think Forest is, like, best defensive asset is Dean Henderson, and he can't play versus Man United because he's on loan from Manchester United. And Leeds and Man City, always usually a very interesting and intense game, but I think City will get back on the winning terms and get themselves the W. For our differential picks, I've gone with Everton as the clean sheet pick for the week. I tried to keep them all near as 5% or less as possible, but some of them are just too good to pass up on, even though they are slightly above 5%. De Gea in goal, I think a lot of managers are looking at the likes of potentially retaining Pope or going with Kepa from Chelsea. I just think De Gea has 3 good fixtures in a row, and I think it's hard to pass up on the fact that he does make some save points. We probably will concede shots, but if he keeps a clean sheet, he'll be probably in the bonus. So I think De Gea could be a good option if you're unsure about other goalkeepers. And he's only, I think, 4.9 million. I'm certainly considering him as well, especially with the fact that Dalot looks like he could still be injured. Martinez and Brand are not back. And do you pick Shaw? Potentially, maybe not. Robertson is 5.3%. I think it's too hard to pass up. I think he played really well in the Carabao Cup game versus City. Thought he was very, very attacking. And especially with Firmino now out, he's going to basically have to provide kind of like the thrust, as it were, on that left-hand side. Kulusevski, I mean, he just basically is the reason why Spurs actually attack well. I think when him, Son, and Kane are on the pitch, it's much more threatening than without Dejan Kulusevski. He's one of their most important players. He was the reason, alongside Bentancur, that they got top 4, which kind of proves that making signings in January is actually a good thing. And it's going to come down to those signings, I think, that's going to determine the top 4 as well. And then Anthony Martial as well. Mitrovic looks like he might not be available for this upcoming game. And I think an alternative for if Mitrovic is back for the double game week, Martial could be a player to put in his stead. I also would put Nketiah in this category. So I would say one of those two would be my forward differential. But I'll go with Martial, United bias, and maybe we'll go with him as well. So those will be our predictions for the week. So I'll post those later over on Twitter, because we have lots to discuss. Just give me 1 second. All right. So let's get into iWaz's questions here, because they are very important. So let's bring them up on the transfer screen. Let's bring up Salah. His head's going to be cut off a bit, which is unfortunate. But Salah on the season, 6 goals, 4 assists. Nowhere near the heights he was hitting last season. He does have 3 goals in his last 4 matches played, which, he's going to be raring to go, as it were. And then you have Kevin De Bruyne, similar price, just 0.2 less, with 3 goals, 10 assists on the season. Crazy stats. He also has 2 goals, but has an additional assist. And also has a double game week in game week 20. Those are things to consider as well. Maybe not in the immediate future, but still should be something in the back of our minds. Me personally, I think I'm going to go with De Bruyne, but I'm going to go with a slightly different strategy. And that reason being is because I think that De Bruyne could be my basically third city, as it were. I am thinking about not going with Cancelo. So the players that you have, let me actually bring up another. Let me bring up another notepad. I'm gonna just put this in a separate notepad there. So basically, if we're looking at like the players that you want from City, I mean Haaland is like is an obvious. This is like I'm gonna do it from in order. So from like most wanted to like potentially least wanted. So you have Haaland. A lot of managers want KDB. Then it's like Cancelo. And then it's like Foden. But if we knew Foden was starting, we would probably have Foden like up further because he's cheaper, right? From Liverpool, it's pretty much just Darwin. And then probably Salah, I would say, in that order because of the price point. Man United, we would definitely have Delo, or I would say Rashford's first. Rashford's first. Delo, if he was fit, would be second. And then probably Martial. Arsenal, I think Martinelli, just for value. And then Ben White would be probably another one. And then another just defender, potentially. I'll put Robertson in this category, but he's obviously further down. Spurs, I'm think it's Kane and Kulusevski probably. That's probably about it. You probably don't want to get anywhere near the defenders. Who am I missing? Chelsea, it's like Kepa seems to be the highest in demand, and Reece James. I would probably say it's probably in that order, to be honest, because everyone's looking at the goalkeeper slot as somewhere where they can just kind of set and forget, and Kepa seems to be the most likely for that. Newcastle, I think it's Trippier and then maybe Pope, if you wanted to stretch that. And then other players that are like kind of just in and around. I think Mitrovic is obviously high on people's list. Obviously Andreas Pereira, Ward obviously as a backup goalkeeper. Who else do we have? I mean, Bueno is another one. You have Patterson could be a defender. Who else would we have on this list? Well, Almiron. Actually, no, Almiron's probably in here. Almiron would be there. Yeah, Saka would potentially be in this list because I'm not sure he's on everyone's mind. Trent, maybe. Like Walker or like some cheap City defender. Who else we got? Castagne. If we knew Chilwell was fit, he'd probably be in this list as well. De Gea is in there. Who else are we missing? Let me run down the teams, actually. Let's see. Let's just run down the teams. Nothing from Villa. Nothing from Bournemouth. Maybe Ivan Toney, if we knew he wasn't going to get, like, banned. He would probably be in there. Brighton, Trossard. And then maybe like a Dunk as an example. Dunk would be like the kind of, placeholder for a Brighton defender, as it were. Chelsea, I think we kind of, it's just Kepa and Reece James, to be honest, apart from Chilwell. I don't think any attackers are going in here. Palace, no. Everton, no. Fulham, I mean, we've got Mitrovic and Pereira there. Leeds, probably not. Maybe Rodrigo, but you're not going to go there. Leicester, Castagne, Madison, I would say, is in there, but looks to potentially have some kind of injury. I need to make this list a bit narrower, as we can see, because I have not formatted this in that way. There we go. So City, Liverpool, and United. Arsenal, Kulu, Almiron, and then Pope would come down here. So yeah, pardon my formatting. It is kind of bad, but we're just kind of putting ideas out on a piece of paper, as it were. What other teams could we potentially go from? We got those, got those. Southampton, no. West Ham, no. Wolves, probably not. So yeah, those are probably the players that we're kind of looking at. We got Haaland, KDB, Cancelo, Foden from City, Darwin, Salah, and Robertson from Liverpool, Rashford, Delo, and Martial initially from Man United, Martinelli, Ben White, some type of Arsenal defender from Arsenal, Kulu and Kane from Spurs, Kepa and James from Chelsea, Trippier, Almiron, and Pope from Newcastle. And then, like, the other kind of players that would be in our thoughts would be Mitrovic, Pereira, Ward would be our backup goalkeeper for sure. Bueno and Patterson as a cheap defender. Saka, Trent, Walker, Castagne, Chilwell, De Gea, Tony, Trossard, Dunk, Madison. Those sorts of players are kind of in and around our thoughts. So I was also mentioned Cancelo versus cheap City defender. I think if you're going to go a City defender, I think you go Cancelo. I don't think you go Walker. I don't think you go Kanji. I don't think you go like that. If you're going to go a City defender, you either go Cancelo or you go Ederson. That's kind of it, really. I think you have to go one of those two. I just think that just makes the kind of the most sense, to be honest. At least in my opinion. Just give me 1 second. All right. So yeah, that's we're kind of balancing around what we want to do. Now, I've seen a lot of drafts with 2 premiums, 3 premiums, no premiums, or sorry, 1 premium. Sorry, because we kind of forget about Haaland as a premium because he's just everything. Captain, goal scorer, he's just in the team. But if we were to like kind of draft up a team here, because that's what we kind of want to do. I'll keep this notepad hidden off to the side. Now that we have a kind of like a reference point, let me touch on the Arsenal versus like other midfielders. I think if we knew Foden was playing, because Foden didn't start in the Carabao Cup, but potentially could start in the league. Foden will be a good FPL asset if he starts. We know this. Is he a replacement for Kevin De Bruyne? No, he's not. He's just not, right? He's just not. You pay the premium for De Bruyne because you know he's going to play, especially in the bigger games. As an example, we take a look at the fixtures here for Man City. These 3 games right here, De Bruyne is going to play every single one for 90 minutes, assuming he's fit. I have no doubts about that. It's big games. It's games against the traditional 6, as it were. He's going to play in these games, assuming he's not injured. It's a guarantee. Haaland will play in those 3 games too, assuming he's not injured. And those are the only 2 players that I would say with full confidence, and Ederson probably, that I can say they're guaranteed, nailed on. They're not going to be not on the team sheet unless they're sick or injured or something like that. They will be on the team sheet. I can't say that for Cancelo because he hasn't been performing well. Didn't play well for Portugal. Foden is kind of weird in some of these like games. It's like Pep kind of picks him sometimes and then doesn't. It's literally the roulette. But yeah, fixture wise, I mean, you got to have 3 City. The fixtures before are good. You have the Chelsea away fixture, but Chelsea aren't great at the moment. And then you have a double game week. Doesn't matter who the opposition is. It's Man City. And then the fixtures are still decent as well afterwards. And it's just Man City in it. So, But in my opinion, I think if you're going to go with your triple city, if you're going to go with 3 city, I think the 3 that you have to go for, so either you have one of 3 options. You go Haaland, De Bruyne, and Foden, which is potentially what I'm looking at. You go with Haaland, De Bruyne, Cancelo, or you go with Haaland, De Bruyne, Ederson. Those would be the 3 options. I don't think there's any Haaland, Foden, Cancelo option. I don't think that's an option because Cancelo hasn't been playing well, might just randomly be benched for whatever reason, and he plays Walker and like Ake or something like that as the fullbacks. And then you're down 2 players and Foden's on the bench or something like that. I think I think you kind of have to go De Bruyne, which means unless you're going 3 premium, you go without Salah. And that's just my opinion. That's how kind of I see it. De Bruyne has been performing as well, if not better, than Salah this season. He's also 0.2 million cheaper. And I think that the attack generally goes through De Bruyne into Haaland. Whereas with Liverpool, it seems to be kind of a bit weird at the moment. Everything seems to be going to Nunez. Yes, Salah did score in the Carabao Cup. And they seem to be making a front 2 partnership. But if Darwin starts basically converting chances, which he's getting in the right positions to do, he just hasn't done so, a lot of the chances are going to fall to Darwin Nunez, and I think you can potentially go without the double up of Salah and Darwin because Darwin is 3 million cheaper and is going to play because they literally do not have any other attackers. Firmino is out injured at the moment and will probably miss at least 1 game. Diaz is out for a long time. Jota is out until I think like February or something like that. So again, those are the only 2 guys left basically. So yeah, let's see if we can organize a team here. So what are players that are going to stay in this team, as it were? I did a couple of transfers. So you see, like Lissandro Martinez. I'm not going to keep him. I love how they have personal reasons. It's like he's celebrating for because they won the World Cup. So yeah, let's remove some of the players here. But in terms of the Arsenal midfielders, we'll get onto that into like the midfield section. But kind of a summary of it. I think Martinelli's worth keeping, especially if you had him at 6 million. Doubling up on Arsenal, I think their fixtures aren't the greatest. They do have 2 home fixtures, which helps them versus West Ham and Newcastle. The Brighton away fixture could be tricky, but Brighton seem to be a bit leakier than they were under Potter. So, we could see how it kind of works out. But that's where Nketiah or someone like that could come in, or the transfer window could shake things up. So players we're keeping Ward. I mean, we're keeping Ward. I bought him at 4.1, is what it is. But Alisson was just there because in case of a price change. But Alisson's also not a terrible option as well. I think his XG prevented is like 7 or something like that, which is just crazy. He's the reason that Liverpool probably have the few clean sheets that they do. Obviously, we're not keeping Martinez. We're keeping Trippier. We're potentially, I would say, who's the likely out of these 3 defenders if we had to keep Cancelo, Robertson, and White? I'm not going to keep Cancelo personally. I just don't think he's been playing very well. I don't think City potentially have a clean sheet potential in 4 out of their next 5 games. I think Spurs score. I think Man United score. I think Chelsea could score. I think Leeds will score. I predicted 3-1 there. Everton would be the only one where I'm like, yep, clean sheet, nailed, locked on. So to me personally, is it worth that? No, I'd rather go with more of the upside. And if Foden gets 3 out of the 5 games, he's going to play in the big games too. I think I'd rather go with him and De Bruyne. Robertson I really want to keep, but I just can't kind of convince myself that Liverpool is going to keep clean sheets. And I think Ben White's probably the best 4 million defender. Or 4.5 million defender, or at least he was 4.5 million. We got him in at when he was a 4.6. He's gone up to 4.7 now. And I just think that he is just somebody who can play in multitude of positions. For Arsenal, he could play as a right wing back. He could play as a right-sided center back. He could play as a center back in a 2. He could just play as a right fullback in a standard back 4. He's very versatile. And I think he's just been playing so well that I think their back line just doesn't need to change, really. You know, you have Zinchenko on the left, you have Ben White on the right, and you have Gabriel and Saliba, who I think Saliba's back in training as of yesterday, I want to say. So I think that they should be fine there. So I think that the extra, drop off there is good. Will it see Ben White being subbed earlier in games? Yes, that could actually be a good thing, though. If Arsenal have a clean sheet going to like the 65th, 70th minute, and they bring on Tomiyasu for Ben White as a bit of rotation there, that is something that Arteta has done, which actually has benefited some to get those clean sheets. So as an example, there was one recently, I want to say. Or not too recent. I want to say that it was like one where basically the team could have scored. I think it was one in the last 4 games where basically Ben White came off and they the other team almost scored basically, and they could have conceded, and then Ben White would have been on for bonus points. So I think we're keeping him. Saka we have to cut, unfortunately. Zaha, as much as I would like to keep him for these 2 nice fixtures, we have to get rid of him, I think. Foden I'm keeping. Andreas Pereira I think I'm keeping. Greenwood, we're going to get better forwards. A better forward than Greenwood. Darwin, I'm going to keep. Just because he's cheaper than Salah, and it seems like everything's going through him. And Haaland, I mean, we don't ever have to touch Haaland ever again in this game unless he's injured for a long period of time. So, those are the players that I'm keeping from my team. I brought in Darwin last game week. So had I not brought in Darwin, I would have only had... And same with Ben White, I didn't have. I brought him in as a transfer before the before basically we shut down, as it were, for the World Cup. So I only technically have I didn't even have Ward either. So I only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players, and 2 of those, or 3 of those, 4 everyone has. Foden, not that much, but so we're looking to replace 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 players in the team. For the most part. Now I went De Bruyne. That's pretty much goes without saying. I'm going to go with the Triple City attack. I think I'm pretty set on that as well. Up front, we'll kind of come back to that. But one thing to know is, so Mitrovic potentially has an injury. But also, if we look at the fixtures here for Mitrovic, he has to play these 3 games without getting booked, otherwise he gets suspended. So he needs to go through these 3 games without getting a booking. Now, if he's injured for this one, and he comes back for this one and gets booked, he will miss the first game of the double, and then it's bad. If he gets booked in the first game of the double, and then comes out like a 1-pointer and can't play in the second one, that's bad. So in theory, what you would want, if you're someone who's not going with Mitrovic, you want him to get booked in this Crystal Palace game. 100% get booked. And then you can bench him if you have him in Game Week 18. Obviously, you'd like him for the Southampton fixture. But yeah, for the double that's kind of what we're looking at. So me personally, I'm going to avoid for now because there's an injury looming. And I'm actually going to go with Martial. I like Nketiah as well. I like Nketiah, 6.5 million. Has done really well when he has played. Can he hit the heights of what he did at the end of last season? We'll have to see. I was Mitro is overrated. I mean, a little bit, I would say, but he has this constant kind of injury that keeps putting him in positions where he kind of can't. He kind of can't keep playing, as it were, which is a problem for him. Right. So, and then with the Man United double up, Rashford I think is pretty straightforward. Best United player in form. 3 of the best fixtures you could possibly have. Someone that you can keep through the Man City and Arsenal fixtures because you know that United will probably play more on the counter. And potentially in games when Martial does get subbed, 70th, 75th minute, Rashford goes through the middle. And then the fixtures are great afterwards. Crystal Palace and Leicester and Brentford at home in a chunk of 4. with Leeds away, which United always do well versus Leeds. With the Liverpool fixture, again, United away will probably play more defensive side. And then still great fixtures up until when they have to play like Chelsea and Spurs. And still have 2 fixtures to rearrange versus Leeds at home and Crystal Palace. So I think Rashford is, at his price, insane value. Just insane. So that's what I'm looking at here. Normally I would be throwing in Delo in here, but he is looks to be injured, so I'm not really going there. De Gea would be kind of my filler goalkeeper at the moment, so I'll put him in there just for now. We'll talk about, you know, why I wouldn't go Kepa, and I mainly think that's just due to the fact that Kepa's coming off a little bit of an injury. He could easily just kind of play Mendy at any point. Yes, you have Ward for cover, but again, I only kind of want to play Ward when De Gea has bad fixtures, or my goalkeeper has bad fixtures. So, like De Gea as an example, Man City at home, Arsenal away. I think United probably concede in both of those games, in 20 and 21. But Danny Ward has Forest and Brighton in 20 and 21. Maybe I'll put De Gea in goal away to Arsenal, because I remember that one time he had like 17 saves or something when like Sanchez was missing from close range and that sort of stuff. And yeah, United won that one. So I like to hit 4.9. But that could easily be Nick Pope. I mean, a lot of managers are overlooking Nick Pope. Newcastle's fixtures are still very good. Arsenal way is not a difficult fixture for Newcastle. They're playing at a level where they can definitely compete. I think Nick Pope is good enough to, whereas, I mean, his days at Burnley, he saved them many a times. You know, Liverpool and Brighton and Man City in that chunk of 3 could be a bit difficult. Does Ward have the fixtures to potentially cover those in 24 through 26? No. So on that kind of rotation, as it were, it would be a bit trickier. Maybe I think you just play Pope and bite the bullet there. Also, a defender that's been getting a lot of traction is Reece James. He looks to be back in training. He played 65 minutes in behind closed doors games. And Chelsea have some of the best fixtures around in the next 5, with just City at home being one of the more difficult ones. I think Reece James just kind of has to be in there. He's 5.8 million. Even if he is a bit of a risk injury-wise, I still think you can kind of go, like, get away with it. If we just chuck in a cheaper defender there, so we mentioned Bueno. He played and was involved in Lopetegui's game behind closed doors. Again, 3.9 million. He's just going to be there as your third sub. That's all he's there for. Patterson, if you want to be more sure, I guess, because Patterson is like basically guaranteed to play when he's available, just for 0.1 more. But let's put Bueno in there, because I don't think the 0.1 million is going to actually matter for us in this instance, but we'll put him in there regardless. And then our last defender, I think, is just going to be a situation where we kind of we can kind of rotate players from this position if we go with another like cheaper defender in this instance, and we can kind of do it with Arsenal and Leicester. So I like Castagne in this position. He does have Newcastle at home, so you probably wouldn't want to necessarily play him in that instance, because it is a bit like kind of trickier, but could be useful after these first 2 sets of fixtures, where he then plays Fulham, Forest, Brighton, Aston Villa in a series of 4. And Ben White can perfectly cover the Newcastle at home fixture and the Brighton with the West Ham and Brighton for when Castagne does play Liverpool and Newcastle. So that's something we could potentially go with if we were looking for something to kind of play somebody game in, game out, and not do more of a rotation, kind of just have Ben White as our, you know, kind of when we need him type of player. And we didn't want to go Castagne. I think you can go with Luke Shaw as an example, just because the first 3 fixtures you kind of, you know, he's good there. And then after in 20 and 21, obviously, you know, Arsenal potentially could get a double game week soon. Shaw is kind of a bit attacking, so maybe you just swap him out for somebody else afterwards. You know, Perisic will probably be fully back. Spurs have a double game week in 20 as well. They also have Fulham in 21. Yes, the fixtures aren't great, but you never know. Perisic with an attacking return. The one defender I really want to know, because he did so well for me, is Chilwell. But again, he's just injured again. If Chelsea had another defender that was good, so like Fofana, if he was fit, is re-injured himself, that could prove to be, quite fruitful, as it were. So maybe Shaw or Castagna is the kind of one to go for in this instance, and we kind of bank the rest of our money here. We could easily go for another Arsenal defender, but that would lock us out of triple. I have quadruple United, so ignore that at the moment. I'll just put Kepa in just so it. Alright, I gotta type in his actual name. I could have Shaw in here, and just have him for the 3. If I get rid of Shaw and I put in Robertson, we would have to make like concessions elsewhere, and drop 0.4 million somewhere. Where that would be, it would have to be probably Martial would have to come down, because I don't see us dropping anywhere else, unless we just went without Liverpool and went with Callum Wilson as an example. We could do that, but I think probably what I would do instead is I would go Nketiah instead of actually, how much is Kulusevski? Okay, Kulusevski's 8 million. So the 0.1 on Ward actually does end up mattering here. The 0.1 on Bueno. So yeah, Martial would probably come out for like Nketiah as an example. And we could do something like that. Or we could drop like, we could drop right down and go for like Almiron as an example. I personally don't want Almiron. I just think it's I don't know. I think I'd be more inclined to have to play him game in and game out. And for 5.8 million or 6 million or whatever he is now, you kind of shouldn't expect as much as he's been getting, basically. You kind of don't expect him to be scoring week in, week out for 5.8 million or whatever he is. So I think something like that could be an option, but that would mean I would have to go without Triple City, which I'm definitely not gonna do. And I would really want Robertson, but again, it is a bit of a risk there. So I'm gonna go with De Gea here. I mean, I could just go Kepa and just kind of follow the crowd. I could just go Nick Pope as well. Let's see what other defenders we have here. So defenders, yeah, there's not really much there. Dalot would obviously be perfect. He's already had his 5 yellow cards, so he would be perfect to put in there. A Brighton player of some kind, a defender, would be potentially okay. So like a Dunk or a Veltman and something like that. Yeah, their fixtures are kind of a bit mixed, but you can kind of flip them in and out when you need them. And their fixtures are really good from 21 to 29. And then they have a really good end of the season. And they also have 2 very easy games, in theory, to play still as well. Also, if I sell Robertson, he's 0.1 more expensive, so that's another thing. I get him slightly cheaper because I had him as a transfer. So that would be a bit more difficult. Another thing that we can also consider, this is something is something that we can do, is just go with the Ward and Everson. Just go with Ward and Everson. That is something that is still a thing. The goalkeepers are cheap enough to do so, and it makes it so that we kind of just play Danny Ward, hope he makes some saves, hope Leicester keep a clean sheet sometimes, and we don't have to worry about potentially Kepa getting rotated and that sort of stuff, and we just kind of forget about it. I don't like it as much, but it's a situation where it's like, okay, well, we change our starting goalkeeper from Kepa, De Gea, Pope, to Danny Ward, who is our backup. We have a non-playing goalkeeper who is the backup, though. But we can get to the likes of Robertson, as an example, in our defense. I could also potentially still, if I wanted to, I think, I'm just going to check this. So if I wanted Kulusevski, and I got rid of Robertson, I can still have Cancelo here, if I wanted to, for exact money. So that's another thing that I can do. So this is something, you know, these are the type of things that we need to kind of consider. We need to consider them. By the way, this I have 0.0 in the bank. I literally have nothing in the bank with this draft. Thoughts on Kane? I think Kane is a very good asset. I mean, he's scoring week in, week out, but we don't know how the World Cup's going to affect him, or how it could affect him. You know, missing a penalty, arguably probably the most important kind of moment in his career. You know, how is it going to affect him mentally? Do I think Kane's going to just completely shut down and become this, you know, player that just goes off the boil? I don't think so. I think Kane's much more professional than that. And I think that he'll come back for Spurs and continue doing what he's doing. I think if you're going to go with Kane, I think he has to be part of like a threemium. I don't see Kane being your second premium behind Haaland, as an example. I think that, you know, if you're going to go with Kane, it's Haaland, Salah / De Bruyne, and Kane, I think. Because even a player who is going, you know, week in, week out, he's getting, you know, 6 points, 7 points, 8 points, 9 points, 6 points, 7 points, 8 points, 9 points, whatever. It doesn't matter what their price is, you just want that player, right? And Kane's been doing that. If we look at Kane's kind of run, I mean, he's blanked in, like, what, 3 games? 3 or 4 games the whole season, something like that. He's got 12 goals, 3 assists. If like Haaland wasn't such a freak and scored 18 goals, we'd be talking about Kane every week. We'd be like, why isn't Kane our captain? Why don't we have Kane? You know, we'd be talking about him all the time because Haaland's overshadowing him, and the fact that we want that price point in midfield of De Bruyne / Salah. Then, you know, you have this sort of situation. Another thing to also consider as well is if I don't have Cancelo and I did go Robertson, I would be 0.1 short of Kepa, which is kind of annoying, to be honest. If I wanted Kulusevski, as an example. Because Kepa is, I keep typing his name wrong, Kepa's 0.1 off, which kind of sucks, but is... You know, we could just drop down Martial to Nketiah or, you know, something like that if we wanted to. Or we can go Van Dijk instead of Robertson. I do like Robertson a lot. But yeah, that is a 0.1 off, which is unfortunate. Yeah, I think I like the city triple attack, to be honest. So I like Foden here. I'm able to get Robertson in here if I wanted to. With 0.2 million to spare. And then you just play Trippier, James, and Robertson. And you just go 3-4-3, really. I was current draft is Ward and Kepa, seeing that a lot. Trippier, James, Cancelo, Patterson, and Bueno. Oh, so you've gone super cheap as your two remaining defenders. Salah, Rashford, Foden, Almiron, and Pereira, Haaland, Martial, and Darwin Nunez. So you must have a little bit in. Do you have a little bit in the bank? Yeah, you must have a little bit in the bank. Probably more than I do currently with this. So with this draft on screen, by the way, I have 0.2 million. I have 0.2 million in the bank. So, but yeah, it also, you know, I mean, depends on team value as well, right? Depends on team value. $0.3 million in the bank. Yeah, so see, I'm able to. So if we compare teams, if I put in, oh, keep typing in Kepa. And you had what? Cancelo here. Instead of Ben White, you had Patterson. We get Salah, Rashford, Foden. Salah, Rashford, Foden, Almiron. Yeah, so I would only have 0.1, but that's mainly because of the fact that that you probably have value potentially in Almiron, which I don't. Some people probably got him at 5.5. Some people probably have also much more value in Trippier. So like Trippier, I got him at 5.6. I don't know what he started at, but I know some people had him at 5.5 as well. So, some people have more value in Foden as well. So it's kind of all depends. Also, everyone will probably have the 0.1 on Ward, which I don't because I had Everson. I went for that kind of 50-50 there. But yeah, if I were to do a team kind of like right now, Darwin, Holland, I think Martial is kind of like my front runners for the front line. Rashford, Pereira, Martinelli, and De Bruyne are like my 4, and then like this, and then it's a matter of Foden versus Cancelo. I definitely want Reece James, Trippier, Ben White, and then Bueno are like the 4 in there, and then it's the last defender that's like, who's that gonna be? But if I'm able to get Robertson because I have Everson in there instead, then that might work out. Mitrovic is also only 0.1 away as well, so we can go from Martial to Mitrovic if we needed to do so, which is you know, a good option to have. We can get any 8 million midfielder. We can go De Bruyne to Salah if we wanted to, because he only is 0.2 away. So if we wanted to have more money, I mean, we could just do Ben White down to Patterson. That's another thing we could do. So yeah, is having De Gea for an extra 1 million. So like having De Gea starting versus Ward, and have Ward as the backup, while having Castagne better than having Robertson and playing Ward. I don't know. I think Robertson's been playing quite well recently. You know, he got 2 assists in the Southampton game, 1 assist in the Leeds game. He's got 4 assists on the season, but 3 of them have come in the last 4 games. And I think he's going to be more required to kind of be involved in the attacking sense. He's getting more involved in and around the box, and I like him. And I've always liked kind of 3 defenders that kind of can play game in, game out. And if I'm going to go triple city attack, then I mean, replacing Cancelo with Robertson isn't a bad shout, to be honest. So I kind of like this team a lot. Obviously, the only thing I'm like, you know, not happy with is the fact that I got to play Ward. But I just don't trust Chelsea. I mean, if Kepa becomes good, then Kepa becomes good, sure. If I wanted to go Kepa as an example, it would basically be it would basically be Ben White down to Patterson would be kind of the sacrifice, which in the long term could hurt me because of the fact that I wouldn't have like my Arsenal player kind of sorted there in defense. Foden would probably ultimately become Saka as an example, and Martial could become Nketiah, which might be better. That might end up being better. But, yeah, we'll have to wait and see. But, yeah, so the team I currently am kind of liking a good bit at the moment now that we've built it on stream is something like this. We do have the money. This has 0.2 million in the bank for me, as you can see. And that's mainly due to the fact that I have 0.1 value on Robertson. I have 0.1 on Ben White. We have Trippier's value. We have Martinelli's value. Obviously, not selling Martinelli is huge because we have 0.4 on him. Haaland we've had from the beginning as well. So yeah, those are kind of helping us a lot right now. But yeah, that's probably gonna do it. I think that's probably gonna do it. Really enjoyed the stream today. It's very good to talk about FPL once again. But yeah, like I said, this will be our only stream before Boxing Day kicks off. Let me check the schedule. So let's see. So Boxing Day, these are Boxing Day fixtures. And then we have games on the 26th, 27th, 28th. So we will likely be back on. So I'm actually on vacation until after the New Year. So the likelihood is I will do a deadline stream on the Friday. That's what we'll kind of aim for. And then we'll let these games play out again. And then and then I'll probably do again a deadline stream on the 2nd as well. And then there's this weird kind of break. And then it's just bang straight into another game. So what I might, depending on how the Mitrovic thing might do, we might just do a stream like on like the Monday before like this game. But yeah, that's further down the road. But yeah, likelihood is we'll let these games play out and we'll do a deadline stream on the Friday. And kind of work ourselves out here. But yeah, so we will post our team as we normally do. So make sure to follow us over on Twitter. We also put in the YouTube community section. Put a lot of stuff there as well. So make sure to check that out when it comes out. I'll post it hopefully 1 hour before, or I might do it the night before. I might just do it the night before and just be like, whatever happens, and go from there. So yeah, I'm gonna try to finalize my team before the festivities kind of kick off, because then you can you start eating your Christmas lunch or dinner, and people start drinking, or you get involved in conversations and you change your mind or whatever it might be. Distractions will happen, and so I'll make sure to have it all sorted out by that. And I'll also put our predictions over on Twitter as well. But yeah, let's move over to the big screen. So, thanks again for joining us for FPL Take 2. It's the start of FPL season again, in a sense, with the second half of the season kicking off come Boxing Day after the World Cup victory by Argentina and Messi finally getting himself the trophy he's been looking after for oh so long. But yeah, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, follow us on all the platforms, and until the next one, take care.